So this time around po, we will talk about a very important crop in the Philippines. Yes, may idea po ba kayo kung ano yung important crop in the Philippines? Tama po tayo lahat. This is the rice, or what we call in the Filipino as palay. Okay, we Filipinos love rice, of course. Our meal is not complete without rice. That's why we love only rice in the Philippines. And even in the afternoon, we have this we call bahaw, the PM snacks. So that is our PM snacks, especially in the province area. So, well, can I get a thumbs up po if you agree? Just click the buttons below. Thank you for that. Well, today we will have an important conversation on how we can shape a more sustainable future for rice to ensure food security for our future generations. We are joined today by PPSA Network member Bayer Craft Science Philippines to share with us the current situation of the rice industry and what we can do to secure a sustainable path for rice. I'm excited, to introduce our resource speakers from Bayer today. But before we start, we have some reminders for everyone. Ano po? So, since this is we're on Zoom platform, this session is being recorded, of course. Second is please rename using the following format. For example, your organization po and your name. For example, PPSA and Ryan. Okay, third, please remain on mute while our speakers are presenting. Should you have any question for our speakers, please put them on the chat box po below. We'll address them later. And if you are experiencing any technical difficulties while on this Zoom, please chat again on any of us from PPSA team, and then we will address your concern right away po. Ano po? And then the last but not definitely the least, let's keep this space for everyone to share their thoughts. Ano po? Walang tama, walang mali. If you have any question, any thoughts on your mind, just keep on coming, para naandyan po ang ating mga resource speaker from Bayer. So, let's go. So to formally start po this session and introduce our featured organization for this learning session, please welcome Country Commercial Lead of Bayer Craft Science Philippines, Sir Inas Ivan Lau. Magandang umaga po, Sir Inas.
Hi, magandang umaga, Ryan. So again, magandang umaga sa lahat ng mga naka-tune in online dito sa ating session for today. So it is our pleasure to be invited today by Philippine Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture, or PPSA, in this latest Usapan session on rice, which is a very important product. But before that, I'd like to, of course, acknowledge and thank our guests who are sharing their valuable time itong umagang to with our partner, PPSA, led by its Country Director, Angel Bautista. I also like to thank the guests from Department of Agriculture, PhilRice, Philippine Council for Agriculture and Fisheries, and the rest from the public sector, including ang ating mga stakeholders from the academe, mga farmers group, mga kooperatiba, financial institution, non-government organization, business chamber, and of course, the private sector. The rice problem that headlines our news over the past few weeks and months recently really brings to the fore the significant place that this grain occupies in our culture. Sabi nga ni Ryan, for something that is so important and we feel so passionately about, we call rice with different names to refer to its quality, consistency, and end product. Like sabi nga ni Ryan kanina, bigas, palay, bahaw, tutong, lugaw, buro, and much, much more. Of course, rice, a staple and main source of energy for many Filipinos. This crop indeed is very much part of who we are. Wika nga ng maraming Pilipino, rice is life. Rice, however, is increasingly facing twin challenges to meet the growing demand from our growing population while reducing the use of our natural resources. In fact, do you know rice is one of the most carbon intensive crop and highly resource intensive on labor and water. It takes 2,500 to 3,000 liters of water to produce a kilo of rice. You can imagine that. Ganon siya kadaming tubig na kailangan para lang sa 1 kilong bigas no, na nabibili natin sa palengke o sa supermarket. And of course, political tensions also make rice one of the crops most vulnerable to price fluctuation and supply constraints. And of course, here is where we at Bayer believe that we need to urgently change things for the better. Transform our rice systems is indeed key to Bayer's vision of health for all and of course, hunger for none. And to advance our rice sectors and the lives of 2.4 million Filipino farmers that depends on it, one way forward is to radically transform how we cultivate it. Kung paano natin siya tinatanim at pinoproduce, no? And one of the key things is to practice regenerative agriculture, produce more with less while restoring more as well. In the absence of single one-size-fits-all product or solution, Bayer's definition of regenerative agriculture is about adopting system-wide approach that treats each farm as an individual ecosystem. Above all, it aims to deliver measurable outcomes in terms of productivity and sustainability, be that water conservation, carbon reduction, and of course, the most important of all, yield increases for our farmers. At Bayer, we're constantly looking for ways to create commercial value for the grower in all aspects of the farm, as well as measurable benefits for our environment. Fundamentally, we see no trade-off no, between sustainability and growth. To share more of this, I'm very, very happy to be joined further by my colleague, Dr. Kamat, to talk about Bayer's vision of the future of rice farming through regenerative practices. And of course, my Philippine colleagues, Retcher and Leo, will meanwhile share some sustainable approaches to rice farming that can potentially support ang ating mga farmers to produce more with less inputs while giving back more to nature as well. So again, on behalf of Team Bayer, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to a meaningful discussion this morning on rice transformation. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. So I now take you back to Ryan.
Maraming salamat po. Thank you ulit, Sir Ainas. Umpisa pa lang ng ating session pero may natutunan na ako agad about rice, about the water. Marami pa nang nakukonsume na water ang palay, no, pag tinatanim. That's why mahalaga ang bawat butil ng bigas. Okay po, we look forward to learning more about Bayer's initiatives on rice. We're also curious to know how the other sectors can contribute to the sustainability of the industry. Now, let's get the conversations going to talk about the future of farming and broadening sustainability approaches in the rice cropping system through regenerative agriculture. Join me in welcoming the head of Sustainable Agriculture and Partnerships for Bayer Crop Science Asia and the Pacific, Dr. S. Kamat. Good morning, Dr. Kamat.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Ryan. And that was a very good background, Ines. So let me take it forward, and maybe if we can move to the next slide, please. So thank you very much for having me here. I lead the sustainability and partnerships for Bayer in APAC. And it's my pleasure to share with you what we are doing for rice in particular and agriculture at large when it comes to cultivating crops in a more sustainable and a regenerative manner. Next slide, please. Next one. Yes, so very important thing, what we all know as of today, as of now, is there is huge pressure, right? On one side, you can see there is a growing population, and we are expected to reach 10 billion by 2050. But on the other side, there is always kind of increased pressure on our agriculture ecosystems. It could be shrinkage of overall cultivation, cultivable land per capita, or it could be degradation of topsoil, or less and less water which is available for irrigation, because increased population puts a lot of pressure on all these natural resources. So the challenge is we need to produce more with less resources. And it's not only the quantity, but also we need to produce healthy and safe food. And this is where the focus comes on agriculture. Always people used to say agriculture is one of the troublemakers, right? So now we need to turn it around and see how agriculture can contribute to not only producing more with less, but also improving the environment. So this is where agriculture at large and rice in particular plays an important role. Next slide, please. So as Ines mentioned, so rice is life, right? Especially in all of us in Asia, this is so very important. We eat rice 3 times a day, right? It's one of the largest crops, third largest grown crop globally. Around 165 million hectares of rice is grown globally, and around 150 farmers are dependent. Million farmers are dependent on it, right? So, and majority of this is still a transplanted rice. So this is where we see an opportunity, because rice is very, very laborious if it is cultivated in a transplanted paddy rice situation, and it takes huge quantity of water. So how we can address this challenge is the topic for discussion today. Next slide, please. So at Bayer, we have formed some of our sustainability commitments, and I'm sure many other organizations do also have such commitments around sustainability. And like others, our sustainability commitments are also linked to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There are around 17 SDGs, right? And based on that, we have sourced the appropriate ones for agriculture kind of related aspects, and we have picked up our sustainability commitments. And in short, they are 30 30 100. So first 30 is reducing the greenhouse gas emissions per kg of crop produced by 30% by 2030. And the second 30 is reducing the overall crop protection impact on the environment by 30%. And the third one is to reach 100 million smallholder farmers in low and middle income countries. And we have recently added to our sustainability commitments of 30 30 100 with one additional one, and that is around water. What we mean by here is our aim is to reduce 25% of water use per kg of rice crop produced. We are starting this commitment with rice because rice is one of the major consumers of irrigation water. Apart from that, Bayer is also concentrating on ensuring the product stewardship at marketplace, the safe use of PPEs, ensuring the overall environment is protected. We are engaged in a lot of trainings so that farmers use them appropriately. And last but not the least is around the biodiversity and soil health. So when we move to the next slide, so this is where we have recently brought all these pieces together under the umbrella of regenerative agriculture. And and I'm sure if you Google for regenerative agriculture, you will see the dozens of definitions there, right? Since we are in agriculture space and our customers are farmers, so we wanted to see from farmers' lens or our customers' lens, so what is important for them, right? And our definition or our scope is kind of linked to the farmers' needs. So that's why if you see here, I would like to ask you to concentrate on three keywords in our definition. Number one is outcome based. And I will share those outcomes here at the bottom of the slide. And the second keyword is solution oriented, because one product or one solution, one kind of product does not solve the entire problem. And the third one is flexible approach. So these three are very, very important. So, and those six benefits or what outcomes, what we call is for most important one is yield increase, or improving the overall productivity. So there should not be no compromise on that, because our smallholder farmers, or for that matter, any farmer, do not want to see a drop in their yields, right? Second one is a positive impact on overall socio-economic conditions of our societies, especially farming societies. The third outcome which we are concentrating is around soil health. The fourth one is mitigating climate challenges. It could be reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, overall environmental impact reduction, everything is bucketed in that. And the fifth one is improving or preserving the biodiversity. And last but not the least is conserving water. So these six are important outcomes to our farmer customers, as well as our societies and environment at large. So when Bayer thinks about any regenerative ag concept or a project, our focus is at least, if not all six, we should have couple of these major outcomes need to be solved for the farmers' benefit. And how we want to do this is predominantly ensuring the soils are kind of covered. We have proper cover crops, or don't disturb the soil with unnecessary tillage, have more of a conserved or no-till approaches, go for integrated pest management, so that we are not abusing any particular solution or a particular concept, but bring it as altogether multiple techniques and technologies by which our farmer customers get the maximum benefit. And again, just to kind of highlight the three keywords, what I mentioned: the outcome based, the second one is solution oriented, and the third one is flexible approach, or a tailored approach, what we call. Because I'm sure whatever the farmer needs of Visayas may be totally different in Mindanao, right? So we need to really cater to the farmer needs by designing appropriate solutions linked to their pain points, so that they maximize the overall benefits. So this is the overall kind of structure or framework with which we operate when it comes to regenerative ag. Next slide, please. So yes, the obvious question is, what's the difference between regenerative ag and sustainability, right? So sustainability, as we all know, is produce more with less. But with this regenerative ag, we are going a step forward and elevating our responsibility by including other aspects of conserving more or restoring more. In sustainability, we are kind of focusing more on reducing environmental impact, having less water, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I think focus is given on that, so that we use less resources to produce more. But on the right hand side, if you see the regen ag, it is more around conserving our resources for our future, protecting soil health, restoring habitats, right? All these comes into picture. Next slide, please. So, and if you ask me, do we figured out everything about regen ag, how we are going to do, what's important, what's not working, what are the proof points? And my answer would be no, right? So that is why what is more important is to partner with experts, other collaborators, and together we build this whole environment. And recently, Bayer has initiated with International Rice Research Institute, IRI, to generate proof points around how the regen ag concept fits in a rice ecosystem. So we have initiated this study in India, and I'm sure some of the results and insights from this will hold good for other parts of smallholder geographies of APAC. So our focus is, when a farmer shifts from a transplanted paddy rice to direct seeded rice, what's its impact on greenhouse gas reduction? So if you see there in the bottom right of the pictures, left side of the picture, so we are erecting some of the glass chambers in the fields to actually measure how much of methane is lesser produced in a DSR system rather than a flooded transplanted system. Similarly, we are putting water meters. If you see the top side, right hand side of the picture there, we are installing water meters into all the plots of rice grown both as transplanted and direct seeded to quantify how much of water we can really reduce, right? And what's also important is the soil health. So since we are not flooding the fields, we are not going for puddling of the soil, there would be a positive impact on the overall soil health in terms of soil structure, no compactness, no hard pan formation, and also some possible benefits around the soil flora and fauna, right? So we want to assess that. And that is why the long-term study. So these studies may not give us complete picture in one season or two season. So we want to run it for 3 years or more. And in all our parts of in APAC here, we have multiple crops grown per year, right? So rice is followed by corn, or rice is followed by rice, or rice is followed by wheat in India, or sometimes pulses. So we want to also understand, by changing this practice, what is its positive impact on the following crop. So end of the day, our idea is, when we generate these proof points, we need to consider the farm end to end throughout the year across the different cropping systems to generate data. And we are generating data in different systems of irrigation practices also: irrigated, rain fed, only one season of rice, or two seasons of rice. Kharif in India is called rainy season and Rabi is dry season. So we are kind of assessing all the permutations combination and how a hybrid rice fits into this dynamics. So end of the day, farmer should get better yield, better income, and protect his farms. Right, that's our ultimate objective of running these experiments. And once we have more data, maybe in the next conversations, we can share more details about this. Next slide, please. So I will give you now a few examples. So how a Bayer is looking at driving this transformation for rice cultivation across APAC with the different our strategies. So let me start this. What the first example is what we call direct acres. And this is the project which we have started in India, and we plan to expand it beyond India, include Philippines at some point of time. But here the objective is to really give farmers a comprehensive solution end to end and really drive this transformation. Because beginning of this project, we did the farmer surveys, because DSR is not a new thing, right? So everybody knows this practice, but why not farmers are adopting this? And we came up and we came across through these surveys the four important reasons. The first one is reluctance. So farmers always felt DSR crop is a gamble. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not work because of various reasons. Second one is fear of crop failure because of, again, various reasons, right? And the third one is confusion. They think this is a bit of a complicated, it needs some kind of um, uh, hand holding, some kind of advisory. So it is bit complex, right? And then this last but not least is skepticism. Always farmers want to do what they call seeing is believing, right? So if you go and simply tell just go for DSR, they may not like it, right? So these were the four reasons predominantly why DSR is not a new technology or a new thing, but still it is not getting adopted. So we wanted to really understand how we can address these gaps. So we are now coming up with various means and measures with which we can plug these the farmers' pain points in terms of reluctance. So is there a crop failure? How we can help them to give a designed hybrid seed which fits in a DSR system and give them better yield, or how we can bring them the right solution for managing weeds, or herbicides so that farmers get the proper protection from competing weeds first 40-45 days of the crop growth, right? And how we can handhold farmers throughout the cropping cycle by providing the right advisory in terms of digital tools. When we are working with thousands and millions of farmers, you can't physically connect with them throughout the cropping cycle. So what are the different digital tools? So one of that is FarmRise, which I will touch base later. And also Bayer may not be able to provide anything and everything what is needed for driving the DSR cultivation. So we need to partner. So what's important here, it's an ecosystem of services. How we can collaborate with a machinery company who can help us in providing services to farmers in terms of sowing seeds, or a fertilizer company, or an irrigation company, or maybe a downstream value chain company, right? So this is where it's an overall kind of support what we need to provide to drive really this project. And we have started seeing very good success for this project in India. And as I said, now we are evaluating and taking measures to take it to beyond India so that farmers from other countries can also get benefited. The second, next one, please. The second example, what I would like to call out here is the example from Japan. So in Japan, one of the opportunities what we saw is in Japan, the farmers use a mixture of herbicides. So what we have done is, instead of going for a ready-made solution which is currently being used, so we are going for a tailored solution. So in this is where the digital comes into a picture. Instead of mixing all the expensive chemistries, whether a particular species of weed is there or not, whether it's a resistant weed or non-resistant weed, so currently they mix everything. So how to avoid this is the kind of approach what we are doing in Japan in terms of RHDS. So rice herbicide digital solution. Can you move to the next slide, please? And this is where we rely on our digital technologies. So first thing is the weed diagnosis. So when we go to a doctor, first doctors need to observe the patient and diagnose what problem we have, right? So instead of simply giving a medicine or simply giving a kind of pesticide to spray, or a cocktail or a mixture of pesticide to spray. So what's important is, first one is to really understand and diagnose what species of weed, what stage of weed it is it kind of a predominant weed species or not. And then we kind of prescribe what is the right a herbicide to use. And the second one is, our herbicide formulations are designed in such a way that we can go for high load formulations, and also they have self-dispersing technology, so that if you spray using manual options or using drones, it gets spread on water surface or on the surface, so that it's more effective in nature. So that is where it helps us to attain better coverage and more efficiency. And we are working with drone service providers to use some of the drones, and especially in Japan and South Korea, there are also small motorized boats which are being used for spraying herbicides. And this is how you can see, as we advance in different countries, the available technologies, customer pain points, we can bring newer solutions. And these are the newer opportunities and possibilities if you see in different countries, right? So the next slide, please. So the next example is around, as I said, when we discussed with farmers, they always say how you can be in touch with us, or how farmers can be in touch with the companies like Bayer continuously. And we can't be in a physical touch with them throughout the crop with thousands and millions of farmers. And this is where the digital platforms like FarmRise, which is developed by Bayer, comes handy. right? This is an Android platform, and which farmers can use. It is kind of a bridge between Bayer and the farmers, and farmers get different advisories, like what is the crop stage, and as the crop grows at different crop stages, so we give tailored recommendations based on different geographies, and based on right product mixtures, right tailored solutions. We have weather advisories indicated included in this. We have information of nearby marketplaces so that farmers get the market price of different produce. This is not only rice but also other crops. So we have deployed this platform in India, and we are covering 22 crops. And rice is the focus crops. Rice is the lead crop when we designed this platform, right? And we know that in different countries, our farmers speak different languages. And as you guys know, in India, we have dozens of local languages, right? So we have this advisory in local languages. We have it in 10 local languages in India, and we have 185 market information, and this application can be downloaded from a Play Store because it is an Android based, because majority of our smallholder farmers, those who are at least can afford and have smartphones, they predominantly have an Android version. So that is why we started this with the Android opportunity. Maybe in future, if there is a scope, then we can also enable this into iOS or iPhone platforms. And to our surprise, we have over 2 million downloads of different requirements of farmers from this. So that is the kind of power of digital technology. If we have those smartphones enabled, and if data is affordable, and as farmers are also kind of becoming more and more tech savvy, and the right policies and frameworks are available, this is the power of digital platforms, what we can do. And as you see in the top, at this point of time, we have done it in India, and we have understood the dynamics, how it works, what challenges, and our wish is to really expand this to other parts of APAC. So we are evaluating and seeing how we can take it to other countries in the Asia Pacific for smallholder farmers. Next slide, please. And this is the example number 4 is the backend for our farmerize platform, right? So what's important is the right content, right? That is what helps us to have the stickiness for our application. So if farmers are getting real benefit, real advisory, which are practical and usable, farmers would like to more and more use our application. Otherwise, there are dozens of such applications and platforms available. So this is where the cross-functional team comes together to really design the content required for a particular geography. There is no one solution for entire country, leave alone country, even the province, right? So we need to go to sub districts, districts, and if possible to a village level. That's our kind of a wish, right? So having that tailored content is important. And this again, we have already launched predominantly in countries like in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Philippines is also there, Indonesia, and China. So in the process now, developing more and more content for Philippines, and at some point of time, this would be a good resource for our Filipino farmers and also others who are associated with agriculture at large. It's not only for farmers, even our collaborators can also access this. Okay, so the next slide, please. And this is what underscores the importance of partnerships, as I mentioned. So Bayer alone can't do everything, right? So we can do our bit, but to really drive this transformation, it needs that holistic approach and an end-to-end solution. So we have recently established a concept called Bayer Forward Farm in Vietnam. And we are working very closely collaborating with Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development in Vietnam, especially their National Agriculture Extension Service. It requires a lot of extension work, and government has a huge force on ground in terms of extension. So this is where the strengths of two stakeholders can come together and drive this transformation. So this is the first season which we just finished a few weeks back, and we have initiated some projects around machine sowing. When we are transferring or transforming it from transplanted rice to direct seeded rice, we need to enable it with proper machinery which can enter into either dry seeded or wet seeded fields with more precise nature and suitable for smallholders. So we are working with one of the local companies there called Kim Hong Machine Enterprise. And they have tweaked and designed machines suitable for wet DSR conditions and to really do this direct sowing. Similarly, we are working with fertilizer company who have optimized the right nutrition so that farmers can not overdose or underdose, but go with as per the soil analysis records and appropriately apply and manage the entire input. We are also working with an export company called Sunrise, right? So once these produce is produced in a more sustainable manner, how we can ensure the proper buyback or maybe a proper produce price for our farmers. And the approach we are following in Vietnam is to work with a cooperative. So there are farmer cooperatives. I'm sure it's there in Philippines also, and I'm sure my colleagues would touch base. So we are engaging a farmer cooperative in this journey. So the ultimate aim is producing the best quality rice with appropriate and integrated solutions without over exploiting any resources, and have it produced in a more regenerative manner. So in the process, we are also quantifying some of the environmental impact benefits. We are planning to work with the IRI, GIZ, SRP, and others to really drive this, right? So this is one example, and how we can replicate this in different countries as we want to drive this. Next one, please. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to discuss, just to kind of give you a flavor of what's happening. And I will transition it back to the host so that later we can take it back to Filipino specific cases. Yeah, thank you very much. And if you have any comments, questions, please do drop them in chat box.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Karmat, or as we can say in the Filipino, is maraming salamat po. Okay, with rice sector facing many challenges and as the demand for rice keeps growing, it's nice to know that we have companies like you, Bayer, who are committed to developing ways to ensure a sustainable future of rice. Now, that we heard Dr. Kabat that we can produce more with less impact on the environment while restoring nature. This time, we will dive into Bayer's Philippines transformative initiatives on rice. Okay po, to share with us about Bayer's priorities in initiatives on rice production, let's welcome Key Accounts Manager for Government and Industrial for Bayer Crop Science Philippines, Mr. Richard Ondap, and Rice Agronomic System Manager for Bayer Crop Science Southeast Asia and Pakistan, Mr. Leo Howard. Sirs, good morning po.
Good morning. So, mayong buntag. So, I saw from watching from Sindangan. So, mayong buntag, taga Katipunan ko, Silingan ta. So, yes, let me take you through kung ano yung ginagawa ng Bayer Crop Science in the Philippines. So, to start our session, so next slide, please. Okay, so rice, the hungry Filipino. So I think Ryan touched a bit that we are eating a lot of rice 3 times a day. Just to put some numbers into it, per capita for a Filipino, we're consuming around 110 kilograms of rice per year. So that's around, I would say, 300 grams per day of rice. And if we add the water consumption needed to produce that, it's around 800 liters of rice. So when you start eating your rice today, think of how much water was used to produce that bowl of rice that you are eating. So I think, and aside from eating rice in our meal, so we are having also rice as our snack. So that is really, I would say, how rice is important in our diet. And if you look at the area that we harvested for rice, we are having at around 4.8 million hectares, 2.4 million farmers, rice farmers. And at the same time, if you look at the age of these our farmers, we are looking at around 56 years old on the average. And if you are talking much to these farmers, like you are already like towards 56, so towards your senior years, so who will till the land after? So normally the answer, it's quite sad that nothing from their children or son is like really up for it. So another challenge we face in our rice production is really how to entice the young generation as well to keep producing rice for our country. Okay, and our population is growing. We are now at 110 and it's growing. And the land that we till for rice is, I would say, this won't increase in the next years or so. So we really need to look at it and focus on how we can sustainably produce and supply the demand for our country. So before I will touch on to the experience or initiatives that Bayer is doing, so let me pass on to Retcher Ondap, our key account, and also our president of the Rice Board, to share some highlights what we are doing in the rice industry. Over to you, Retcher.
Yeah, thank you, Leo. And given that we have this very important rice is very important sa mga Pilipino, no? We have rice in the morning, rice in the merienda, and then we have lunch, and then also the dinner. So we cannot go living without rice. So with that, how important is rice? Given that we have some experience on engaging all the stakeholders of the rice industry, maybe I would like to share you a bit of some of the challenges of the rice industry itself and the production. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah, these are lists, and it could not be exhaustive enough, or there will be more, but we put it on the 4 buckets. And basically, the first one is there is this challenge of the rice stability, and within it is really everybody is really, we are experiencing low farm productivity, and farmers can attest to that. And we are also experiencing a high cost of fertilizer. It's very much a commodity itself, and given some of our situation, even in 2022, there's a very high cost of fertilizers that we have and other inputs. And coupled with the price of palay, and everybody is really knowing, and will be knowing that there is really a gap on farmers is really wanting to review this palay price that we have. And then, of course, another one for our stability, critical stability, is the climate change, no? And we're talking and we're discussing with the government and other private sector and other stakeholders about the impending El Nino that we have. So we have also some uncertainties in the global trade, no? And need not to further discuss more, but everybody knows that there are some restrictions on some of the exporting countries, and we have some competition also. When that happens, there's a lot of competition getting some rice. So there are some uncertainties on the global trade. Food security, everybody's, we have an increasing population, and just knowing that there is also a increase in the rice consumption year on year. And of course, the rising inflation that we have leading to expensive food. And then, of course, on the other side, there's also a topic about the fragmented agriculture extension that we have system we have. And of course, notably, we have small farms leading to limited scaling opportunities. And there is one comment there when we have this engagement workshop and meetings, that there could be a need to improve some clarity of roles between the local government and the national government and even the private sectors. So with that, where we want to go, So can you please go on the next slide? So as an industry, so we pick up what is and the plan of the government, and this plan will be really for private sectors and shareholders should align. And if we go on really having a good outlook on the rice sector. So under the new program of the government, under this new administration, which is what we call the Masagana Rice Industry Development Program, which is until 2028. And the goal really is that we don't goal about 100%, but the goal is just 97.5% rice self-sufficiency. And under this one, of course, we will address the stable rice supply. And there is these numbers that we want for everybody is still looking at from the 24.99 metric tons target and going to the 26.686 as example up to 2028. Of course, there is this bucket below on how we will achieve this one. Then we will also address the balance of trade. So we aspire that it will be market driven, and also we know also that there are some special rice like the black rice that we are also exporting. So we want to look at that. So the industry needs to review that one. Affordable price, of course, it's a function of we have to lower our production costs and some of the associated costs like the marketing costs. And of course, we have some of the contributors like the post-harvest facilities losses. As of now, remember, there's about 16% losses that we are having on the rice production. And we have also the prosperous communities. Of course, we want farm household income to increase, and by how we do that, there will be some value-adding activities or by enterprising activities, diversity on what despite the farming, and we look at on how they will be having a byproduct of the milk rice, and of course rice-based farming, which is now being spearheaded by Bill Rice. Healthy and rice secure, of course, some effort on reducing rice, substituting rice, from other crops, and the proper consumption of rice, and of course, a very, very practical one is reducing the wastage of rice. Okay, so can you go on the next slide, please? Now, under the Masagana Rice Industry Program, these are the strategy. And you see Masagana. This one is coined with the Masagana. When you see Masagana, the Ma means maratag. Of course, there's it's being defined as resilience, stability during the climate change. It's basically adjusting, yung ang nakukuha ko dito during all the meetings that we have is that we will look at how we will optimize the yield of our palay, And one example of that is that we will plant on the right and proper timing, na hindi tatamaan ng bagyo, or kailangan natin siyang magkaroon tayo ng balanced fertilization on planting our rice. Those are just some of the sample. Sama-sama is very important, and this is in the Masagana. Sa is sama-sama. There's a convergence, and very important here is which is now being on progress, and the key to the success is really the effort of clustering the farmers. We are targeting about clustering 100 farmers, putting into one cluster so that they will be having a good bargaining power. They will have more, I will see the economy of scale, being into a cluster, rather than being one farmer alone. So ganado is more on, which is the ganado is more on, we want farmers, when we have the cluster, we want farmers not only concentrating on the production. Farmers will also be on the commercial contributors. So we look at the whole value chain of the system. So farmers will not only look at like selling their palay, but of course, if they can do their own milling and market their own palay, that will also help. This is one of the core strategy of the Masagana rice program. Papanahon, of course, there's discussion on digital transformation. We know that there's a lot of initiative. There is already a standing application right now. So what we want to do is really make sure that we will maximize, we interlink them, and really, implement them and scale up what we have on the digital landscape. So those are the core strategies of the Masagana Rice Industry Program. And I think this is very important because we need to align all the stakeholders. Maybe we need to align so that we can achieve what is our future for the rice industry and the rice production itself. So thank you very much. And I think back to you, Leo.
Okay, thanks, Richard, for sharing the updates from the rice industry. So now let me take you to what Bayer. Next slide, please. So let me talk about what Bayer is doing to play our role in this important task, like as we are living to our vision of health for all and hunger for none. So as Kamat shared earlier, so this slide, Bayer advocates really for an outcome-based definition of regenerative ag and to drive a solution-oriented approach. So what makes Bayer in the position to do that? So if you look at on the right side, this circle here, so Bayer, we are in good position because we have seed and traits, we have crop protection, and the digital aspect is there as well, as shown by Kamat in his examples. But of course, we need to understand what are the needs of the farmers in certain geographies and really tailor fit. So that's why at the center, we really still need to be grower-centric and tailor fit the solutions that those farmers will have to ensure really whatever they invest, they get the equal or much better return to it. So now let me go to the other slide to give you an overview of how are we growing rice in the Philippines. So next slide, please. So, okay. So if you look at in here, so it's a bit busy slide. So if you look at rice is grown in different ways. There's rice transplanted. It can be done with machine or manual. I would say in Philippines, majority is still manual, although machines, government is really supporting as well for the machines. And if we talk about direct seeded rice, there are several ways. So there's wet direct seeded rice, and also there's also dry direct seeded rice. So if you look at Philippines in here, Philippines, we are around 4.8 million hectares. So we are at around almost 50-50, like 55-40% direct seeded practice. So there's a shift. If we look back 5 years ago, farmers are mostly growing rice in a transplanted way, but there are really challenges now, as we say, aging farmer population, not so much people involved or are into agriculture, so labor challenges is there. So farmers now are shifting to direct seeded. So those are just one of the factors why there's a natural shift happening in the country. And in terms of hybridization, we are at around 28% last year, and the adoption is mainly on a transplanted rice. And if you look at how labor-intensive rice is, it takes around 2 months for one person to really cultivate a 1 hectare of rice field. So those are just the facts that what we are doing or how are we producing rice in the country. So if we look at buyer side, so what are we doing? So as we highlight earlier, so we really focus on tailored solution to address the challenges in rice production, may it be specific to pests, diseases, or labor. So in the next slide, I will go through these examples, focusing on key inputs. So first one is this tailored solutions, which we focus to aim to a better productivity and of course profitability. So it should be a balance. Like farmers invest, that investment should really turn into an additional profit for them. It's a bit busy slide, but let's focus first on the left side part. So this is tailored solutions where we are trying to focus on farmers who are doing inbred. How can we improve their yield with our technology, or what we have is a fungicide, Nativo. So Nativo, it's a fungicide that is proven in other countries in our research that could really help improve the yield with and without disease. And in the Philippines, this is the first fungicide registered for drone use. So in here, farmers, just by adapting in their own practice adding nativo, so there's a corresponding around 9% yield increase that they can have just by adding on this. But if you look at in the yellow or orange chart, like if they combine, really shift from inbred to hybrid, here we use our rice hybrid. So these trials were done in 40 locations across the country, and we are really winning like 100%. Like every location, we are showing much better than what is the current practice in the area by combining our seeds and CP. So this is just an example of an input-based approach focusing on key technology, which in this case, the Tibo and seeds. Now, if we go to the right side, the second example, if you look at the map, this is in Mindanao. So knowing in those areas, so we get a lot of complaints, or not complaints, reports that farmers are having a lot of issues with certain pests like stem borer, and at the same time, some hoppers and also rice blast. So taking this into account, like these are the three key pain points of the farmer, and then designing a solution or a program that would really fit and ensure anything that they will invest would translate into a better yield or profitability outcome. So we did, this is in 8 locations in those areas where we have the reports. Then we conduct a demo, because farmers are always really seeing is believing. So we conduct a demo with our tailored solution, which is here as seeds, and also our CP inputs like Yoval and Nativo to address those key pain points. And then if you look at the bar chart, really there's we really address those pain points, and at the end, the additional investment of the farmer really turn out to have a good returns. So these are just the first example. Like I will focus more on the input base. Now, if we go to the next slide. So this one, we are talking so much, there's a natural shift of direct seeding. Kamat mentioned there are a lot also of farmers' doubts or worry about direct seeding. That's just talking about the practice. How much more if you look at into direct seeding of hybrid rice? So direct seeding of hybrid rice, can you imagine 21 kilos of seeds? You spread it out evenly in a 1 hectare field. So there are a lot of questions farmer would have, like, is this really possible? Or is this really productive? Will I reach really the potential of the hybrid? So with Bayer, way back, I think in 2020, we started this, what we call a master sower program. The aim is really to offer a solution where the farmers can adopt a hybrid direct seeding. So the direct seeding here is a paddle transplanted rice, so it's a wet direct seeded rice. And the key challenges is, of course, for farmers is we try to address the labor cost. If you ask now, on the average, the labor cost, if you are going into transplanted, is around 10 to 12,000 per hectare. That's the one-time cost just to plant. And then if you look at the cost is there, the availability of labor also is a challenge. It's difficult to find labor, and also to arrange those labors to be available in your farm. That's really the challenge. So Bayer really is looking into helping farmers to grow hybrid rice through direct seeding. So we started first by having a skilled person. We called a master sower person. So we trained this to enable this person to really distribute this amount of seeds into the area. But the challenge is not everyone can do it. So scaling it up is a challenge. And also in some instances, I would say farmers still are having this perceived yield gap. Like if they do direct seeded, then it will be, there's still a yield difference versus transplanted. And I think a few years back, drone has been really helping us in terms of scaling up the direct seeded and hybrid. So we have optimized this technology, all our hybrids that can be sown via drone. And we have, if you look at the charts below, first here on the chart on the leftmost side, we are comparing how much does it cost to have a transplanted rice, focusing only on the crop establishment, which includes labor. So as I said, it's 10 to 12,000 per hectare. Manual sowing is enough only for one person. Drone, or we call it UAS, it's a bit expensive than manual because currently we don't have much service providers. Unlike in other countries, like the cost of drones is now really at the level of like manual or a person cost. For Philippines, we are projecting that as we will have more service providers, then the cost of drone services will go down. So just to build the confidence of farmer, like from manual to drone sowing, like we can achieve it. So we have done, I would say, 3 controlled trials and a lot of demos, and we have proven that the manual sowing is, the drone can be as good as the manual sowing. So with that, we scale up these activities. Like last year, we have done into around 50 hectares. So we partners with farmers who are willing to use drone in their fields, and then with our solution as well. So we will provide the drone service to them for free to really build the adoption of this technology to the farmers. So if you look at here, this study, like if a farmer is doing inbred direct seeded rice compared to transplanted, so there's a bit of a yield gap from direct seeded to transplanted. But if a farmer would shift now from an inbred farmer to shift to the hybrid, coupled with the package of technology that fits or that is the need of his area, using drone and so on, you can see really a big jump in terms of his productivity. Of course, there are risks, especially if you are doing direct seeding during crop establishment. Philippines is a typhoon prone. If there are a lot of rains, of course, those are the certain risks that the farmers will have, especially when they are on direct seeding. So what is next really? How can this program, because we have a clear proof of concept, we can do it, really partnership and collaboration. So partnership with the drone service providers. Some farmers in other areas, they really want to try it, but we don't have the drone service providers there. So that's one challenge as well. And also the scale. To really benefit the service of drones, I would say you need a minimum 10 hectares, like to benefit the efficiency of the drone. And as you know, we are looking at the average land holding of farmers is like 1.2. So really a clustering or a farmer clustering approach would really help also in scaling up and addressing this and leveraging this technology to fully maximize the benefit. Next slide, please. Okay, so now after those, I would say, technology or inputs approaches, now we are trying to look at into the whole system approach. So this is a pilot we are doing in a farm in Pangasinan. So this is in Alcala, Pangasinan. So we have a farmer cooperator there. But our aim is how to make that land productive, to maximize his land. Because as we know, the biggest resource that the farmers has is his land. At the end of the day, his land is his best resource. And the question is, how can he maximize the land? He can use it sustainably. He can minimize the risk. And at the end, maximize his profit. So in here, if you look at, this is the typical cropping calendar of a rice farmer. So a rice farmer normally starts planting May to June, depending on the availability of water. Harvest September, October. fallow period, and then plant again. So normally there are 2 croppings of rice. Okay, and if a rice farmer is doing rice, he has some challenges also understanding other crops. So he has a lack of knowledge of other crops. He is used to what he is doing. So it's difficult for him, for us to convince him to change into something different. So that's why we are doing this pilot. So our approach here, or our goal really, is to maximize his land by providing a crop system approach with a multi-season farm plan. So that is mainly focused in here. It is called corn after rice, like incorporating corn in his farm, or maybe for moving forward also other crops. But for now, our pilot is focused on corn after rice. And this is a multi-year, so we are already on our third season. So meaning we are 1.5 years data is available, and we are comparing the existing, or what is the current farmer practice, and then what are we looking, how to maximize the land of the farmer. So these are the initial results that we have for 3 seasons. Of course, the existing, he has 2 seasons only, sticking to this kind of farm calendar. But in our case, we are shifting to direct seeded. We are doing minimum tillage, all the practices that can have to save time to transition directly to another crop like corn with minimum tillage. So the harvest, land preparation is minimized. The cost, how much fuel is used, is also minimized. And we look at the yield. So far, the results are encouraging. We are really improving in terms of this 3-season outlook. Like if you look at the average, or the income of that farm is almost doubled, I would say. So this is at the pilot stage. Of course, we are learning together with the farmer. As I said, Philippines is a typhoon prone. So on our 4th season, there was a typhoon coming. So the direct seeding, I would say there were some challenges as well if you had too much water early in the season. So it's a learning together with farmer as we grow, but it creates excitement for the farmer. He was really, our farmer here is Ray Olpindo. So he is in Pangasinan. So you can even reach out or visit this farm if you want. And yeah, we are learning together and exchanging ideas really, and with the common goal of how we can really improve farmers' productivity of his piece of land. So this is one pilot we are doing, and then I will go to my last example. Can you go to the next slide? So this is a Mano project in Bohol. So Retcher is here. So Retcher really is the one driving or develop this project. So what is this project all about? So it's an integrated rice farming value chain. So it's from end to end, from inputs up to selling directly of the produced milled rice in the supermarket. So it's a multi-stakeholders. So we have Marcella Farms as our key partner. We have Bayer, of course. We have Atlas, and the most important of this partnership are the farmers. So what is this all about? So Marcella Farms partners with farmer. The farmer will receive all the inputs through Bayer, but Bayer will ensure these farmers will have the right technology. Bayer will assess the needs of their area, provide the guidance, and the most important part really of this partnership that Bayer is doing is really the monitoring and support. Because it's important, because every farmer, even within one geography, would have unique challenges, and it's important to address and properly support and address the needs. So what we have done so far in this one, so we started in 2021 from 130 farmers, now 132, covering 344 hectares. And the impact really of this partnership is from the average of 4 tons per hectare prior to the start of the program. Now the farmers are benefiting like a 6.5 tons on the average per hectare. So, okay, I will stop here, and this is my last slide. As an example, there are a lot of projects that Bayer is doing, but yeah, just I would like to focus on this one from an input and into really a system approach that we are doing in partnership with the farmer. Okay, over to you, Ryan.
Yes, nakakatuwa sir no that the core strategies of Bayer very aligned and relevant in the Philippines. So the matatag, sama-sama, ganado at napapanahon. Yes, and again, maraming salamat Sir Richard and Sir Leo for enlightening us further on the threats and challenges in the rice. So we Filipinos are so fond in rice. It's reassuring to know that there are plenty of approaches and initiatives to ensure that we can sustain our rice production. We're excited to see your programs thrive and deliver impact to many farming communities through your locally informed strategies. Ano po? And because this is an usapan or a conversation, we want to hear your thoughts. Yes, eto na po. So may nakikita ako kanina na may mga questions nang nagpa-pop up no sa ating chat box below. Very active, nakakatuwa. And I think sinasagot na ni Dr. Kamat some queries and questions ng ating participants for this sessions. So it's about time. Now it's time to ask your questions for our speakers. Please send them, sabi ko na, to the chat box, and also yung mga nahihiyang magtaas ng kamay no for the questions sa ating mga speakers, gamitin niyo yung chat box. And just raise your hands sa tawagin po kayo ng ating team. And now to facilitate po the Q&A session, let's welcome the PPSA Programs Manager, Ms. Monica Vilano. Monica, good morning.
Thank you very much, Kuya Ryan, and a good morning to everyone. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank our speakers, Dr. Kamat, Sir Retcher, and Sir Leo, for the very enlightening presentation and as well as the status and ways forward for the rice industry. So we're pretty sure, as Kuya Ryan mentioned earlier, that everybody, or at least it sparked much interest since our chat box has been very active. So without further ado, I'd like to bring back our speakers to the bring them back here. Yeah, if you could turn on your cameras also. All right, so I just want to get a poll on how are you guys finding our Usapan session. Just a thumbs up if it's going well for you guys, or a happy react. Everybody's enjoying it so far. And yeah, we can start off with our first question. So what challenges has Bayer, or at least have you encountered when it comes to achieving rice self-sufficiency in the Philippines po? So may I know who'd like to take the question from the three? Maybe we could have Sir Leo, since he presented initiatives for the Philippines.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Monica. So achieving rice self-sufficiency, I think Philippines is in a unique situation. So across our neighboring countries, we are really we have so much typhoons at least. So the risk is there really. So and our farmers really are, I would say, hesitant into changing some of their practices. Like seeing for them is really believing. So although we have certain technologies, it's really the scaling up part of these available technologies. I mentioned it's around 2.4 million farmers. How can you reach out and showcase this to farmers and have really build their confidence into adapting into such technologies that we have proven? So it's a work in progress. It's a good what the good thing the pandemic brought in a way is farmers are looking into the different media now to reach to understand more about the different technologies that is available for our country, really to help them improve their production.
Thank you so much, Leo. In relation to technologies, as you've mentioned earlier, so now in the agriculture sector, digitalization or digital agriculture is sort of booming now with all these different tools and initiatives. So what has been Bayer's experience in terms of implementing digital initiatives for agriculture? Maybe we could have either Dr. Kamat or Sir Retcher answer this time.
Yeah, maybe I can give a regional perspective, and maybe later Ines or Rachel can explain, give a Filipino flavor. So yes, so as I shared in my slides, so we started it as a pilot in India to really have a kind of a direct reach with farmers, and physically it's not possible, and digital platforms will really come in handy. So we kind of evaluated which is the best mode, right? So, and that's why, as I mentioned, we went with an Android platform, because smartphones are need of the hour to really communicate and share these messages. So we started with that, and we have started seeing good progress, and with recent experiences of COVID and lot of incentives from government, and the data becoming cheaper compared to other countries. So all these are kind of motivators for farmers to onboard onto digital platforms, and some of them are pretty active on Facebook and other WhatsApp. So there is no one solution fits, right? So we need to evaluate in a particular country what's the right approach, and you start with that and then slowly elevate to the next level. So access, affordability, the availability, all these are important factors before we jump on to any digital interventions to reach farmers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kamat. Maybe we could have Sir Retcher also pitch in.
Yeah, I think for the digital portion, one of the challenges around here is really on the infrastructure, and that is basically yun yung mga ano natin, yung mayroon tayong apps, mayroon ng mga nandiyan, no, currently, and then the scale up itself is limited, no. Number one, there is really need for some smartphone, and basically the connections also, and of course it goes with it yung training talaga ng mga users natin. So, and that's basically a challenge for us, no, in really scaling up this digital infrastructure that we have, or application that we have. The other thing is that sometimes farmers are yung medyo na nalito kasi marami-rami na diyang mga apps on the on offering on the apps, but yun, paano natin i-interconnect yung mga apps na yan, no? That's why when you see the Masagana Rice Industry Program, one of the aspiration really is to inoperable, i-interconnect tong mga apps natin, so walang duplication, to have an efficiency. Maybe Ines could add also. Ines?
Yes, Sir Ines, if you could also add. I think you're on mute, Sir Ines.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. So I think I'll add to what Kamat said. No, all of the programs that Kamat said a while ago, these are ongoing also in the Philippines. But at the end of the day, the degree of adoption and pace of how we promote it is very different. Let's say if we compare ourselves, let's say, to a country like China and India, and of course some of the countries also in Southeast Asia. And ang masasabi ko, like what Retcher said, of course, with technology, we also have to ensure that this is reaching to the farmers, no, and smartphone adoption within agriculture is still low. Availability of affordable data for our farmers is definitely still not there. But hopefully going forward, whether private or of course the government will have some tie-ups with our telcos to give this access to the farmers will definitely help, no, in terms of digitalization in this field. The power of digitalization is what Leo said is one of our key concerns right now is farmers' reach. And what digitalization is doing for us is really spreading the word, spreading our technology, spreading the innovation that Bayer has a lot more quickly than what we do, let's say 10 to 5 years ago. Although we're still doing it right now, like reaching the farmers through meetings, etc. But we've found during the pandemic, where we cannot do face-to-face meetings, that farmers, at the very least, whether using some of their families' connection, etc., was able to use Facebook, no, to get all those information. So like what my colleague said, it's a work in progress, but I think together with private and public, we'll be able to really use this, no, to really reach the farmers and give the proper information to them to improve their, of course, farming.
All right. Thank you very much, Sir Inas, for your insights. Sorry, just due to the interest of time, we may have to cut our Q&A portion short, but feel free to keep dropping your questions in the chat box below. And I believe our folks here from Bayer are also responding to your inquiries and questions. But just one last question, since I've noticed that we have some people coming in with inquiries on how they can participate or how can they avail of Bayer services. So for the Bayer team, how can our farmers avail of your services and products? And if you could share a bit where you're also available, in what regions in the Philippines or maybe in ASEAN also. Maybe we could have either Sir Leo for the Philippine setup.
Yeah, I think for Philippines, I just put in the chat box. I think Facebook is really popular. So it's easy to reach out to us through Facebook. We have also a web page, and also we have some hotlines, which we will share in the chat box. But for now, I put there the Facebook feed page, and I think Ma'am Irene Santa Ines is willing to engage us. So Ma'am, let's keep in touch. Definitely, you're just in Nueva Ecija, Central Luzon. So yeah, expect us if you drop us a message where you are, and then we can really go and visit you.
All right. Thank you, Sir Leo. I also think we had folks maybe from the ASEAN region. So maybe if you could also drop your links or contact information or Facebook page also for the Bayer on the ASEAN level, so that they can also be able to reach out to you. All right, so that's it for our Q&A portion. Thank you so much to our speakers, Sir Retcher, Sir Leo, Dr. Kamat, as well as Sir Inas, for your inputs, as well as for sharing your insights on Bayer's initiatives. So on behalf of the PPSA, I would like to thank Bayer Crop Science for partnering with us for this learning session, and of course to our participants for the questions that you've been dropping in our chat box below. So just keep them coming. We have people from our end as well as from Bayer's end who are answering them. So over to you, Kuya Rai.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you sa ating mga sir from Bayer, no? Now, give us a quick recap for our Usapan session. Let's welcome naman po our PPSA Monitoring, Evaluation, and Learning Officer, Ms. Veronica Limpin. So, Ms. Veronica, good morning.
Thank you, Sir Rai. So I'm Veronica. So to refresh our minds, let's do a quick recap of our discussions earlier. So we have heard from Dr. Kamat that our global food system are facing increasing pressure due to the several interconnected factors, and that the world's population is expected to grow approximately 2.2 billion by 2050, and it leads to a higher demand for food and feed. So, however, these demands come at a time when the ecosystems are under stress, and that climate change has led to several harvest losses, also heightened the risk of extreme weather events that affects the agricultural productivity. So Dr. Kamat also emphasized that rice is a critical staple crop, with approximately 4 billion people consuming it worldwide, and the third largest crop globally and largest in the Asia Pacific region. So around 150 million smallholder farmers are involved in the rice cultivation, and the importance of the rice in the global food security cannot be overstated. So to address the challenges as explained by our speakers, various initiatives and commitments are being made. So Bayer, for example, is committed to advancing, if you remember earlier, the 30-30 125%. So 30 for reducing the greenhouse gas, 30 for the empowering the smallholders, 100% for the crop protection, and 25% for mitigating the improving the water efficiency. So I've also took note the the key framework, the three keywords: the outcome-based, the solution-oriented, and the flexible tailor approach, as discussed earlier by Dr. Kamath, and the difference between the sustainable and regenerative, which sustainable is producing more with less, and regenerative, producing more and restoring more, but conserves resources for our future. So it was also highlighted the different projects in India, the multi-year project with IRI, the rice with management in Japan, the establishment of the rice forward farm in Vietnam, and of course our farm rice, the digital application for farmers that will help with crop advisory, in-season support, and other services, and also highlighted that it is an Android-based application. So in summary, these initiatives and technologies are part of the broader movement to address the challenges facing the global food systems, and they seek to improve sustainability, productivity, and resilience in agriculture while ensuring the access to essential resources and support for farmers worldwide. And that's for the part one. And for the part two, as presented by Sir Leo and Sir Richard, so we've known about the how Filipino consume rice as it remains the important food style and source of our livelihoods for many Filipinos, and highlighted the challenges. And one thing that I remember is how do we entice the young generation to be part in the agriculture. So also the other challenges were also shared. So the threats in the rice supply stability, uncertainties in the global trade, the food security, and the institutional challenges. So addressing these challenges were earlier discussed by Sir Retcher in the Masagana Rice Industry Development Program, so 2023 to 2028, in to increase the production, balance trade, lower inflation, increase farm household income, responsible rice consumption, and safe rice ensured. So, and of course, also discussed earlier the core strategies to achieve the rice self-sufficiency. Sorry. So the matatag for the resilience and adaptation in the face of the ongoing climate crisis. Then we have the sama-sama, which I highlights for unity and the farm clustering consolidation. We have ganado for focusing on cultivating entrepreneurial mindset among the farmers. And lastly, we have the napapanahon, which centers on timeless and relevant digital solutions. So lastly, Sir Leo also shared how the Philippines is growing. So through transplanted, the DSR, and how do we intervene these challenges in the rice production through the projects in tailored solutions to address the challenges in the rice production, the Master Sower Program, the Corn After Rice System Approach, the MANO project in the integrated farming value chains that covers the input to the consumer market. So, of course, all of these strategies and the projects that have been shared earlier represents Bayer's commitment to driving positive change within the rice industry, not only, of course, by addressing the current challenges, but also by empowering farmers towards a sustainable future. So that's the whole recap. I tried to compress all in the information that was shared earlier. So, okay, Thank you and good morning, everyone. Sir Rai, back to you.
Thank you, Veronica. Now to formally close the session, let's welcome our own version of an angel in PPSA, our PPSA Country Director, Miss Angel Bautista. Ma'am, good morning po.
Good morning, Rai. Can you hear me? Well, okay. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Maayong buntag. Good morning to everyone. From the PPSA team, thank you for joining us in this Usapan or conversation on how to forge a better future for the rice industry. As you have heard, rice is a staple crop in the country together with corn. The Philippines is one of the largest rice producers. In 2021, we produced approximately almost 20 million metric tons of rice. But of course, we also consume a lot. It has been repeatedly and said during the session that rice plays a significant role in the Filipino diet. The kilograms consumed annually by a Filipino, as shared by Sir Leo, if I remember correctly, is 110 kilos. This number underscores the cultural and nutritional importance of rice in our country. Only rice in food chains are very popular. If Filipinos want to really feel satisfied and full after their meals, rice should be part of the meal. Unfortunately, despite being an agricultural country and a major producer of rice, we still import to meet our growing domestic demands. This brings to light the complex challenges faced by the rice sector. Challenges in productivity and vulnerability to the impacts of the climate crisis poses an alarming threat to the nation's food security. Looking at these challenges, it is evident that there is a pressing need for collective action in support of programs that champion sustainable rice production. Example of sustainable rice production is high-quality, low-emissions rice. Embracing sustainable practices like water management practices is essential as they allow us to increase rice production while minimizing our environmental footprint and resource consumption. To increase opportunities and create an enabling environment for our smallholder farmers, we need partnerships that amplify common advocacies so we can harness each other's strengths and prevent siloed efforts, yung kanya-kanya po. Today's conversation represents a crucial step towards finding innovative and resilient pathways for the rice sector. We would like to thank our PPSA Network member, Bayer Crop Science Philippines, for partnering with us in this learning session and for showcasing initiatives promoting sustainability in rice production. We commend Bayer's commitment to the environment by employing sustainable practices that equip farmers with the right knowledge and skills to produce more using less resources. Their efforts align with our vision of empowering Filipino farmers and creating a more sustainable and thriving future for rice farming in the Philippines. Again, thank you all for joining us today. This learning session hopes to highlight the challenges and the direction of the rice industry and share best practices to improve rice productivity. And we are delighted to see that we were able to stimulate discussions that can raise awareness on the needs of the sector and inspire collective action to address these challenges. For the love of rice and our people, we need to remain committed in finding sustainable solutions, not only for the rice industry, but for the rest of the agriculture sector. Thank you everyone, and in a little while, happy lunch at sa mga magra-rice, enjoy nyo po ang kada butil na pinaghirapan ng mga Filipino rice farmers. Back to you, Kuya Rai. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Angel. That ends today's learning session. Thank you everyone for attending. This session is brought to you by the Philippines Partnership for Sustainable Agriculture and of course, with Bayer Crop Science Philippines. So maraming salamat po and see you again in our next Usapan session. Okay, good morning everyone and happy lunch po.